What's up, and welcome back to Cleats to Whistle podcast. I am your host, Kevin Watson.
I am Kevin Watson. He is Brad Valdez.
And we are here, Coach's Spotlight with Keith Eckloff.
There you go.
The Manual head coach here, the new head coach here at Manual.
Yes, sir.
And I'm happy you came on, man. I butchered his name. That's why I butchered my name at the beginning of this podcast. So, yeah.
We've been looking forward to this one for a while.
Yeah. It's, you know what I mean? Because, your name is around the city. You know what I mean? You've been to a few places and want some hardware.
Yes, sir. I've been around for 20 years in Louisville coaching high school football. So.
Yeah, man. And you know what? I always say this first, man, because I would like to know, like, your mentors, man. Who shout out some of your mentors.
Well, in coaching? Yeah. So I've been really fortunate. I've coached under some really great head coaches. I was at Seneca with Louis Dover back in the day. Awesome offensive mind. Does a great job building relationships with kids and really taking care of kids. And he was phenomenal to work for. And then I got to go work with Mike Jackson at Ballard, who's just a relentless worker. Really taught me about grinding in this business and the attention to detail and those kinds of things. Taught me a lot. And then I went from there to Mail and worked with Chris Wolf for 5 years, who's just the best there is, man. So I've had the opportunity to learn from some of the best around the city.
Yeah,
That's three names right there.
That's a list, man.
Yeah.
That's a phenomenal list. And this is, we want to get your community to know who you are. You know what I mean? You were just at Seneca. It was a phenomenal stint that you had there. You know what I mean? Now you just, you stepped up. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir.
How has that transition been for you?
It's been great. There's a wonderful group of kids here. You got to meet a couple of them here tonight. We have an outstanding group coming back, and so everybody's been really welcoming here, and I feel really good about sort of where we are. It's a little unique this time switching schools because we have different end times. So I'm still teaching at Seneca, but they don't get out till 3:20, and my guys here are getting out at 2:20. So that's been the only sort of hard part is trying to conduct workouts and those kinds of things, and I'm the one showing up late.
Are you going to be in the building next school year? Or?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Hey, Coach, do you got anything for Coach just on the opening?
Yeah, no, we've coached against each other quite a few times. When I was with PRP and Fairdale, and he mentioned Dover. Dover's my guy, so I'm kind of partial to him. But Mike Jackson? I mean, Chris Wolf, really?
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to learn from somebody in the city, Chris Wolf is just. I always call him a savant because he's a numbers guy, and he's always got that thing moving. And what was that like just learning under that dude? Because I mean, he's unbelievable.
He is. He's fantastic. And what if I had to pick one thing to sort of say I take away from my time with Coach Wolf is, he thinks about every little detail in his program, and he's looking for an edge and to give his kids the best possible advantage in every way, from pregame to the way he treats himself, to sleep schedule, to bus transportation, everything that he thinks might give his team an edge, he's going to put it in. And he's always trying to do what's best, what's easiest for his kids, even if it's a lot harder for himself or for his coaches, for his coaching staff. And everybody there sort of bought into that philosophy because we want kids to play fast.
So are you finding yourself taking a little from Wolf, a little from Mike Jackson, a little bit from Coach Dover, or is this your thing and you're going to do? I mean, obviously you're gonna.
You've got to borrow from those guys. I mean, if you spent time with the guys that I've been fortunate to spend time with, you got to borrow from those guys. And a lot of times when I'm facing like a difficult decision as a head coach, I'll go back and think, well, how would Chris think about that, or how would Coach Jackson think about this situation? And it sometimes helps give me some clarity on okay, this is the right path.
Yeah,
three great dudes if you're going to learn football. I mean,
yeah. And so where did you grow up?
I grew up in Maryland, just outside Washington, D.C., in Montgomery County.
Oh, okay. Did you play Little League and all that there?
I played Little League and played up until high school. I'll be honest, I didn't know at the time, but I know now as a coach, I wasn't very good. And I'll tell you, in high school, I played all 5 positions on O-line. I played inside linebacker. I played outside linebacker. I played D tackle. I played D end. That's a lot, and I didn't know what that meant at the time. But what happened was people would get hurt, and they knew Eckloff's a smart kid. He can go do okay. And they'd send me over there.
Or he's not very good at any of them.
and then, somebody would return and they'd take their job back and they'd say, okay, well, we got to move Eckloff somewhere else.
You're like the Swiss Army knife.
Yeah, but a role player That's guy. Right. You know what I mean? But you know what I mean? You can talk to a kid nowadays and be like, yo, this was me. When I was in high school, you're just doing your role on this team.
One of the things that I sort of pride myself in is trying to make sure that everybody in this program understands their role and how they're contributing. I think that comes out of myself as a player. A lot of guys come in and are coaching and they talk about how great they were as players. I'm the opposite. I wasn't that great as a player, but I certainly understand the important contributions that all the guys in the program make, and I want to make sure that everybody's got a role where they know what they're supposed to be contributing and they feel valued and valuable.
Love it, man. Yeah. And the number you wore, did it have a meaning to you?
I wore 55 because I thought it was kind of cool to have the repeating numbers, but that was it. There wasn't a specific person I looked up to or anything like that out of it.
Repeating number.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you wore that.
That was it.
Yeah. That's
everybody's got a reason. I mean,
yeah. Now I asked this question. I asked this question a little later, but I always get the smirk and the laugh and the eye roll, and it's hobbies outside of the game of football. Do you have any?
I do. I try to get myself away a little bit. The last few years I've been into fishing a little bit, so I get out and try to clear my mind. The quiet's good for me, those kinds of things. My kids will tell you that I always have different hobbies. So I flipped houses for a while as a hobby. I built a boat one year. I tend to pick a project and kind of throw myself into that, especially in the off season.
Yeah, you got to have something, you know what I mean? Like this guy, he don't have none.
I never had a hobby. I mean, drawing plays, and my wife couldn't stand it. She knew when the laptop came out, it was time.
I think better after I've cleared my head a little bit. Yeah. Sometimes if I sit and focus on a problem over and over and over and over and over again, I'll just go in circles. Sometimes I got to break away and then come back and see it fresh.
That's the Chris Wolf thing too. Chris is good at that too. I mean, he's always football, but I feel like he gets away from it when he has to.
Yeah, well, he's done enough research on mental processes and those kinds of things, and what is the best way to be the most productive. And so, he takes those things to heart.
I'll tell you, I'd love to get my hand on some of his notebooks. He's always jotting stuff down. I mean,
it wouldn't make any sense.
You're probably right. Yeah, I would to hire him to decipher it for me.
Correct. It makes perfect sense to him, but you wouldn't be able to connect all the dots.
We were over voting for All-Stars and everything. He's over just like, what's going through his mind? I know he's not writing down who he's voting for. He's thinking about the first game next year already.
Yep. And we like to talk about how you deal with all the coaches. You know what I mean? They deal with pressure differently. You know what I mean? Like you during the season, how do you you know what I mean? Like
let's be honest. This pressure is going to be a lot different than Seneca pressure and Ballard pressure. I mean, this is Manual. This is what it is.
There are expectations.
That's right.
Absolutely. If you don't want that, you shouldn't be here.
That's right.
So I don't run from the expectations. That my expectations are probably higher than everybody else's. So that's no problem for me. As far as how you deal with stress, the first thing that I look at is if there's something stressing you and there's something you can do about it, then just get it done. Don't let it hang. Don't let it wait. Take care of that task that is bothering you the most first, and then you'll feel better, right? But then there's some stresses you just can't do anything about, and then that's when you have to try to find either a distraction or some time away. You get a date night in with your spouse. That one's a good one for me. But you've got to find a way to not just spin your wheels, and be productive somewhere.
Yeah.
So are you calling the offense this year? Is that?
That's the plan. Yeah,
That's the plan.
I grew up as an offensive guy and a play caller, and so we
won't hold that against you.
So for me, that to me,
that's-
it's I want to go down doing my thing.
Yeah.
If I'm going to go down, it's going to be doing what I feel like I do best.
Yeah, there you go. And what was that one thing that got you to be like, you know what, I want to get into this coaching profession? What was the decision behind that?
So I'm an attorney. I had practiced law for 6 years. I was practicing divorce law in Maryland. My wife was a stay-at-home mom. She's from Louisville, and she used to joke with me, if you want to move to Louisville, I'll go to work and you can be a stay-at-home dad. And I was unhappy practicing law. I did not enjoy it. Finally, one day I came home and I said, listen, you're going to have to quit joking because I'm about to say yes, And, she encouraged me to do that. And so we made this move. And in the process of talking about that, she was asking me, what's next if you're not going to practice law? And she was like, what do you enjoy? And I was coaching Little League football at the time. And so it was really her idea to think about, well, how could we turn that into a job? And so teaching and coaching in high school all came out of that sort of conversation.
What subject do you teach?
I'm certified special ed in social studies. I'm doing credit recovery right now.
Damn, what an answer, man. You know what I mean? Gonna be a stay-home dad, and it's like, you know what?
Okay.
Let's do it, man. Let me get into coaching, and
Yeah.
that's phenomenal.
Yeah, so I got to do that for 7 years. It was great.
Coaching's kind of like being a lawyer. I mean, if you really think about it, it has a lot of similar.
Well, one of the things I love about coaching is that at least once you get to the season, everybody knows a winner and a loser at the end of the week. You can evaluate what you've done. There's a test at the end of the week, and the law was a little bit like that in the sense that there would be trial or there'd be an agreement at the end of a case, and you could look back and say, well, did we maximize what we wanted to do? I did enjoy that part of it.
Phenomenal episode so far, man. Phenomenal. Your favorite memory playing the game or coaching?
My favorite memories in coaching are all about the relationships and not the games. I've been fortunate. I've got my quarterbacks coach here. Mo Crawford played for me at Ballard. And so one of my favorite memories in coaching was right before his senior year, we had a kid transfer in who was a quarterback. He was coming from South Oldham. He was like 6'3", 6'4", had a cannon for an arm. And our quarterback was 5'11", 240 pounds. Could have played on the O-line for me. Could have played linebacker. And I said, this kid's transferring in. Like I was breaking bad news to him. And he goes, okay, but he's not going to take my job. And that, to this day, is one of my favorite sort of little moments. And he took the challenge. And I'll tell you what, he never would lose that job. He took it. So
Awesome.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about your staff a little bit. You know what I mean? Show some love to those guys that are on your staff.
Yeah, so I'm really fortunate. I'll tell you, it's a lot easier hiring coaches at Manual than it was at Seneca. A lot more people that were calling, people that I was calling a few years ago to come coach with me that start calling me this time around. So I brought a couple of coaches with me from Seneca. Our defensive coordinator, Marcellus English, is awesome. And he agreed to come over. He's done a phenomenal job getting our guys to really play fast and be instinctive on defense. I brought my O-line coach, Heath Garner, and we brought our wide receivers coach, Nate Burns, over from Seneca. And then there was a wonderful staff in place here. And I kept a lot of those guys here. So Coach Gillespie, who was the interim coach this past season, agreed to stay on as our offensive coordinator. Coach Ditto and Coach Dandy on defense both agreed to stay, and I feel blessed about that. And Cam Smith's going to coach our DBs. So I almost forgot my running back coach, Curtis Lipsey, who's been here for I think almost about 20 years as running back coach, and the kind of running backs they've produced at this school during his time.
That's a good guy to have around.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Now let's dive into this team a little bit, man. We had 4 guys on here, phenomenal kids. You know what I mean? But what's other kids that are young guys? You know what I mean? That are coming up that you're seeing that spotlight them a little bit.
Yeah, so we've got a lot of returning starters. We got a lot of older guys. The one position that we don't have a returning starter, and we're really going to have to go young, is at quarterback. And I have 2 sophomore quarterbacks who can throw the ball, who are going to do, I think, a really good job. And so, we feel good about that. And a lot of it, I'll be honest with you, I'm trying to get to know these guys and figure out, where we're going to be. So they've been primarily platoon here, and we've been looking at whether there are guys that need to switch sides or whether we need to stay platoon. You didn't get to talk to Jerrion Trainer, our returning running back, but he was all-district running back this past year. He's excellent, and we've got a couple years left with him, so we feel really good about that. Man, there's a bunch of talent in this building. I will tell you, it's a blessing.
Love it. And you say you have like the little challenge of getting here a little later than these guys are here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we pulled up and these cats were outside. They were fired up, man. They're out there doing bear crawls, and what else were they doing? I don't even know.
I saw them doing bear. I thought they were in trouble because they were doing bear crawling.
But when we came in, they were like, "Oh man, we're having so much fun."
They had mud
dirty,
all over.
yeah, nasty,
yeah.
and it's just like and the reason why I say that is building that relationship with these guys. Has it been a little tough, or you know what I mean? Because we had all 4 of them on here, man, and they would look over there in the corner because you're sitting there, and they'd be like, Coach Eckloff's here, man.
Yeah. The players here have a sense of excitement about this program and a sense of ownership in the program that I think is great. And something that's a little different about this place is they seek out contact with the coaches. So when I get here, everybody comes up. Everybody comes up, say hi, make nice. Sure that we get a chance to talk for a minute or two. I wish we had more time together, but it's coming, and it's a great group. And you see how easy it is to talk to these guys, and so that certainly makes it easier in terms of the transition.
The transition. Yep. Now I know you guys talk about you and your staff. You talk about goals. You know what I mean? What is that one certain goal that you want to see this team achieve this season?
Well, for one thing, and I was happy to hear sort of the interview with our players. I think a lot of them have been focused on this sort of offense-defense split and really trying to get them to think more about overall team goals as opposed to their unit or their individual. All that stuff will come. All the accolades will come when you're successful. And so we've been sort of really trying to make sure they understand that they're part of a unit together, not individual units that are sort of competing with one another. So, in a loose sense, that's probably the most important thing that we need to get done. We haven't had the Barrel here in 10 years. I'd love to bring that home. I'd love to get us past the second round of the playoffs. It's a perennial top 10 team. You think that should be a reasonable expectation. I'll be honest, as I look around and I see the talent here, I don't think there's any reason we can't compete for a championship. And so that you set the standard there and then you chase it.
Let's go, man. I love it, man. And that's what I'm saying. I was just going to talk about traditions. You know what I mean? I know this is a traditional school, like they probably have so many traditions. You know what I mean? But are you trying to bring any traditions, or are you just staying with the obviously like the Barrel is going to, you know what I mean, a big tradition here. But are you going to do something like bring something to this program?
Well, one thing I think is when you come into a position like this, it's important to sit down and talk to the kids. And so I met with each class individually and tried to ask them, what are the things that we need to sort of preserve? And they all hit with doing that fight song at the end of the game. Everybody sort of loves that. And so we're going to try to clean that up a little bit, try to get there. I think there were a lot of times where they felt like that took too long to get to that because coach wants to talk to them after the game, whatever, which every coach wants to do. So we're going to try to speed that up and maybe talk after. So we're doing some things to try to improve that kind of stuff. But as far as like creating traditions, to me, I think it's important that these things happen sort of organically. And so I'm not coming in with a list of these are the things that we're going to do as sort of a tradition, but we're going to honor that which has come before us for sure.
Yep, a phenomenal episode. I got just one more question, really. With you coming from Seneca and talk about your time there a little bit, as in like what did you learn about yourself, from Seneca?
Well, when we got there, they had lost over 20 games in a row. There were very few players returning. It was really a complete sort of rebuild. And you're dealing with a high poverty school. You're dealing with a school where a lot of the students aren't from here, don't speak English, right? And so they didn't grow up with football, at least the football that we know as football. And so all of those things went into that build. And I'll just tell you, it was a grind. And then COVID hit in the middle, so that year two, we were going to start a whole bunch of freshmen. And I don't know if you guys remember, but we couldn't hand off a football till 3 days before the first game.
Yes.
And I was starting, I think, 6 or 7 freshmen.
If you did, you had to wipe it off when you got done. Remember that?
Well, that came later.
More than 2 people touched it, you had to wipe it off.
Yeah, if you threw a pass.
How do you practice football wiping a football off every time? Yeah, that's great.
We were doing it,
Yeah.
but we couldn't get close enough to hand off. So you could throw, but we couldn't even do handoffs until right before the first game. And so I felt like that process sort of set us back a little bit in terms of getting the development we wanted. But I feel really good about what we accomplished there. I feel there's 7 starters returning on both sides of the ball over there, and they've been competitive, and I feel like they'll be able to continue along. And so, I feel good about the work we did. Ideally, every time you go to a new stop, you want to make sure you leave the place better than you got there.
There you go.
Well, I've said all along, JCPS, and especially, it's a numbers game. Seneca just didn't have the numbers they needed to compete week in, week out. I mean, how many did you have? 40? Maybe.
Yeah, it's hard to answer that question because my first year we got up to almost 60 before the season, and then by the end of the season we were at about 25.
Yeah.
And that process kind of repeated a little bit that kids wouldn't want to stick things out if you weren't an immediate starter, if you weren't immediately getting the gratification if you lost a few games, those kinds of things, you'd see people starting to kind of walk away. And so
basketball season comes early.
So a lot of what we had to do was just building the culture of making it important for kids.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So
that's not a problem here. I mean, you got 100 kids in the program.
Yeah, we had just over 100 last year, and what's great here is the culture is that there's a lot of multi-sport athletes. So I think we have 35 or 40 players that are in spring sports right now. A lot of track athletes, lacrosse athletes, baseball athletes, and so that's a wonderful thing about this culture because those kids are busy, they're engaged. Usually when kids aren't active and they're not busy, their grades slip and those kinds of things. And I always think it's best if they're involved in as many sports as they can.
Phenomenal episode, Coach. I thank you for taking this time. You first couple of days of spring ball, man, and you had us out here. But I appreciate you. I sorry, Keith, I butchered your name in the first intro. I apologize for that, man.
It's all good.
But phenomenal episode.
Yeah.
Appreciate you guys coming out.
Yeah, you got anything else?
No, I've been looking forward to this one for a while. So
yeah, this is gonna be
good to finally get here.
This is gonna be fun. This is gonna be a fun season, man. Yeah. I can't wait to see it. But like I always say, everyone has a story.
We're here for them to tell it.
Cleats to Whistle Podcast.